City of Cameron and EDOC work session. First item on the agenda is project updates. We'll turn it over to Chairman Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. We wanted to update you on some of the things, have Terry fill in where I missed. One of the things that we've been doing is talking to some area restaurant owners about the possibility of Washington Street, trying to get some interest there, seeing if any restaurant owners outside the area, maybe that are operating other facilities might be interested in that. We've had a couple of meetings. The EDOC committee has reached out to some of their people that they know, like Maryville or different places. We did have one showing where the operator did come and at least look at Washington Street, so we're feel a little better about that, but while he would like to do it, he needs, like anything else, needs someone on hand's deck, and would need someone that would maybe be interested in a 30% stake, as far as sweat equity, getting involved. So that's one of the projects that we're working on. Another one, and this quite a bit of this has happened just since the last council meeting. We had one operator that was interested in the e-trucking building, and the guys got that leased out, and talked to this guy, and he's needing about 2,500 square feet, 3 bays, so we're trying to find a building for him, see if we can match him up. We had that third operator that was a metal fabricator that was trying to get a building here in Cameron, wanted to be here. He just recently moved from Kansas City to the Lake Viking area, and we just flat didn't have the right size building for him. He was needing something around 10,000 square feet for metal fabrication, and it just wasn't here. He ultimately found a building there in Gallatin, which works best for him because it's closer to his work, but he wanted to be in Cameron because of location and whatnot, but, so there's that. We have talked with the owners of the old Cameron lumber building. The original owner is like 95 years old. We're talking with his son, trying to create a dialogue and see if we can't maybe get something useful and productive in that building there. So,
is that the one that's down across from Casey's?
Yeah. Yep. So
It's a good building.
it's a good building, and quite frankly, that building would probably fit this one operator's needs. But for whatever reason, this family in Colorado has been just very, very protective of that building. I think they come here and sort of use it, lay their heads down in the office upstairs type deal. But I just hate to see them productive. I think Terry has reported about the one company that we were dealing with, and we can actually say now that it is Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities is going to be placed in the old cosmetic dentistry building there by Advanced Auto. They were needing about 4,000 square feet. We met with them and showed them 2 or 3 properties, and this property that we found at cosmetic dentistry seemed to fit their needs. What they're going to be doing will be distribution of some food, but it's also to provide classes, for their clientele, to teach them how to do meal preps and stuff with fresh foods rather than everything being prepackaged, that type of thing. So, yeah, and counseling, yeah. So we were happy about that, and you'll start seeing some things happen there. But that Catholic Charities will be I think a good addition to the community. They looked all over. They looked from Albany to Stewartsville, Gallatin, and, looked all over, but they settled on us. Coffee, you know, is a big thing, you know, we've dealt with one coffee operator. I know there's 3, that are just, it's a race on who's gonna open the first one, so to speak. You know, we've got one south by Dan's office, and then we've got one here, the Prince's, you know, that's planning on opening up, and then we've got the one at Thompson that we've been working on, but, those will all 3 be opening here pretty soon. About a year ago, we worked with Cameron Co-op, you know, on the expansion of their grain bins. At that time, those grain bins, were about half the cost as what they would be today. Cameron Co-op's considering doing 2 more. You know, it's been a good addition to their operation. And they actually lease those to a grain company in Kansas City. All their farmers from the areas can come in, dump their grain, and then they pull that when they need it. That project a year ago was about $750,000. A year later, it's almost $1.5 million. You know, yeah, it's doubled in price with the steel and everything involved. So probably site plans are being made, and that'll be brought to the city, and will, you know, be brought to the proper committees, you know, probably in the next couple of months. We were working with a couple of developers on the Cameron Mutual building. As you know, the hospital bought that building. We had 2 different parties that were trying to buy that. One was planning on leveling it and making it some retail, hotel type space, but we're still trying to maybe find them some ground that they feel would be suitable, and go from there. You know, not everything that we touch comes to fruition, but, you know, we try and bring things to you that are coming to fruition. You know, we don't always bring all the leads, just the gravy, you know. But wanted to let you know that. One of the things, and I give credit where credit's due, in a meeting that we had with the city about another project that I'm not gonna report on, I'll let the city do it, because they're the ones that had it. But Patrick brought up a great idea. There are some businesses that would benefit through some TIF opportunities. And gonna talk with him some more, and then talk to a couple of providers and see if that would be a benefit. You know, we've gotta be sympathetic to the schools, because we don't want everybody to go out and TIF and then, you know, difficult for the schools. But I think if we take it in a good steward way, we can be effective and be beneficial. Probably the biggest thing that we need, and I know that Shelley would kick me if I tried to get you guys to come to us to a decision here, but the motel hotel tax is coming back up, and unless I'm told different in the weeks ahead, we're gonna have Randy Railsback file that bill, probably amend the language a little bit, because, you know, as you know, our population's not what it was once. We're not at that 99-67 or whatever it was. We're now at, I think, 85-13 or 88-13, something like that. So the language in the bill has to fall within that, so that we don't be just our lucky to get it passed, and then we wouldn't fall within the population parameters. So there's that. Is there anything else you want?
I think I mentioned this to you last time. The QTC, the shell building is up. It looks very nice. I was beginning to wonder if they were ever going to get it up. If they have, and they got concrete poured, of course, the slab, and then they now have the shell shell building up, so that was a good thing, believe me. I think Mark pretty well actually covered everything else. I think that pretty much does it. We just continually try to work, and Mike here has always been kind of the lead on that, but we continually work on trying to find ways to get Bob F. Griffin Road paved, and do that. I will tell you that there has not been activity on the hotel project as of yet. As you know, they're waiting to try to find a sit-down restaurant, and so once they're able to identify that, they thought they had one, as you know, right off the bat, and it turned out that chain decided not to do that.
That's at 36 and 35 you're talking about.
Yes, sir. But in talking to them they certainly are looking forward at some point to building that hotel, and they will do so. They have a big investment thing there. So that's really kind of where we are.
We also were waiting to hear on the NAT grant that we sent in for the theater, and we should know something about 2 more weeks. But I wanted Mike to report because, like Terry had said, that he's the godfather of CID. That's been his thing, but he's also gotten a grant, and so I wanted him to sort of enlighten you as far as what it is.
Basically received a grant through MoDOT, as $12,000 grant to do through the CID, not through the city of Cameron, it's through the CID, to do some traffic studies and engineering plans somewhat for that intersection. We'll have to meet with the CID board. I sent that information to Patrick, and so he knows about it. I sent the information to the president of the CID board, or the chairman. I've talked to Drew, and I've talked to one of the engineers that the city uses quite frequently to possibly do that project. So there'll be paperwork coming down the line through MoDOT as to what to follow, and Drew's helping me to do that because he's actually the signer on everything through the city. So here again, be working with Patrick and Drew to get that done in the CID board. So hopefully, my goal is to get something planned, get it planned out. So hopefully, we know that there are grants out there right now. There's 50-50 grant, I know that, but hopefully there's some other grants coming down the line that board will be able to capitalize on if we have a plan. So the key to it is get a plan, and MoDOT's been they've been more interested in the project than in a few years past. So, it's progress.
Right now, we're coming up on the CDBG grants, as far as getting stuff together to get ready to present, because that's got to be presented in December. So might be thinking about what projects would want to be worked on, that type of thing. But that's between you and staff, and anything that we can assist with, whether it's through our group or through Mocan Regional Council. Be glad to do that. And speaking of Mocan, Tyler Farrell, we hired him as the executive director. Tyler's out of Jacksonville, Alabama. We tried to find someone locally, and quite frankly, there just wasn't that expertise. You just don't, they're just not apples hanging from a tree that you can pick. And we found Tyler. He's a young man, but has about 5 years experience. It's all been good, and has a broad background with revolving loan funds, SBA loans, writing grants, things like that, so he can oversee our planners. And so I'm looking forward to him getting here December the 6th. He'll be communicating with Mocan from from now until December the sixth, but December the sixth is, feet hit the ground here. He does have home under contract, so he's looking forward to it. He and his family, and has got a 1-year-old son. So I'm glad to have him, and, he has had a brief tour of Cameron already, but we'll get him in here to meet you guys. And, at that time, we were just trying to get ideas from him, what could be done. But, that's some of what we do. And I do know that we are planning on, and, talking to you, we still have to talk to the chamber, to make sure that our memorandum of understanding that we've had in the past, you know, with the chamber and with you all, is still intact. So we have, you know, to go through that progression as we always do, to make sure that everybody's satisfied. But if there's something that you want us to do different, by all means, let us know. I've given you a little, back in 2009, this was written, but it's about strategies for small town success, and it pretty much is what we've tried to do, in not just hitting on the manufacturing end, because once every 20 years you might get a manufacturer, but to do the overall, and to also look at the region, because just like the one guy that we lost that went up, that's a metal fabricator, that went up to Gallatin because we didn't have the right size building. We can still be, you know, have some positive things as far as young men that want to work in that type of area, could live here and just work there, that type of thing. There is one building in Stewartsville that's a larger building, with a Plain Jane's Cafe. You know, it's 20,000 square feet. It's one thing that we want them here in Cameron, but if it's between us getting them here or suggesting, then I think it's best for the area to at least try and, you know, get them in this region, because we will benefit from it. But that's the type of projects we work on. I might have Mike just sort of mention sort of the history, because we've been doing this since 2013, and he's sort of our historian of what we're doing.
You mean on the agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the agreement is just with the Chamber of Commerce, because EDOC is actually just a committee of the Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber and EDOC works hand in hand. We have our own guidelines for EDOC that everybody abides by. Everyone, if you don't have a copy, we have those. You can have a copy of those, so you can see what we do and how we do it. It's pretty strict. Everybody that sits on with that group signs a letter of confidentiality to any projects that we have. So, like Terry said many times, if it gets out into the public, a lot of times the company moves on. So we've all done that. You know, the contract is yearly. It's coming up really quick, because we like to have that done. It's an ordinance, it has to be read twice. Our contract with a consulting firm needs to be signed and ready to go on January 1. So we need that done it's the end of October right now, so we'd like to get that done in next month if we possibly could. So we'd have the whole month of December to decide, the board would decide what to do. Worked with Steve, I think it was probably the first year Steve got here, we reworded some of it. Everything seemed to work out fine in there. And it's a group of people, business owners, that's working together to try to promote the community. And there's a lot of expertise within that group, a lot of different ideas, a ton of different contacts. I think we've found over the years that it's worked really well when one person maybe doesn't know something, the other one does, and we can just move that right on down and around. So, I think it's highly important, and the group thinks it's highly important that we continue to function. We hear it all the time that I see it and I hear it, you don't do anything, you're just sitting there to capitalize on something for yourself, and those words are totally wrong. Yeah, we're capitalizing on things to promote our community. And we know that even if we stand still, we don't grow, we don't prosper. The city doesn't prosper, our businesses don't prosper, our community doesn't prosper. And that's what we're trying to do, is promote that. Just promote that whole project. So, like I say, the contract is due. I'd always done that before when Steve came, he and I worked together with that, and he has it. And like Mark says, if there's something in there that you think needs to be looked at, changed, altered, be sure and let us know, let Steve know, and he'll get back with us. And that's how we did it before. We just worked hand in hand back and forth. And that's a good thing. Everybody working together to make it right, so.
We pay the KCADC dues, which we've been very fortunate. The price that we're paying has not changed, and we'll just try and pay them early so that we don't get a bill, because we're afraid that it'll increase about $2,500. So we have been timely on that. We do have other groups that have contributed to that so that we can do those types of things. We also work with the Missouri Partnership Group, in getting leads and things like that. So that's what we have. If there's any questions about any of the projects or what we might, be glad to answer anything that we have.
Rob, any questions?
Do you have any idea how many vacant business buildings there are in town? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a ton, but.
It depends on if you say empty or are you talking quality empty. We've got some that are empty, but one of the ones that we showed, Catholic Charities, we pitched it, but didn't realize the shape that it was in. But they were willing to look past that. They wanted maybe some changes made, and the current owner wasn't willing to do that, so that wasn't a workable deal. But we were able to secure them. The owner that owns the building there at Cosmetic Dentistry was willing to work with them, and it took about almost 3 months of negotiating back and forth before both parties were satisfied with the lease that they did.
He was pretty desperate to get that rented.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because what Cosmed did to the inside of that is unreal.
Oh, it's very nice, yeah.
So to make that into something else, it's pretty well defined.
Yeah, well, we were fortunate because they did have one of the big things that they were wanting was some type of garage door access, and I guess where their vans or whatever to deliver this food or take this food out can do that, and they can do that around back there.
They've got lots of sinks in there.
Oh, yeah, they do, yeah. So it's, it seemed to be happy with them, and didn't have to start from complete scratch like what we were gonna have to do in a couple other buildings. But back to your question, there really isn't a big inventory if you're talking about actual quality units, some of the buildings that we have, like I call them the Four Horsemen downtown. We've got 1 or 2 other buildings like that downtown that, that need to have a big makeover before where we could get somebody and carry the loads, you know, flooring wise, that some of them want to do. You know, there are some buildings, that are commercial buildings that are for sale, and it's like Councilman Curtis said, you know, it takes that right company. So we just try and keep our ear to the ground, try and match up buyers and sellers and realtors, you know, however we can. The listing agent, like of Washington Street, met with us along with the current owner, and the prospect, and we, you know, had a good discussion, but a lot of it right now boils down for him, if we could find a key person that he could trust that might want to be the manager of that and do the 30% sweat equity, you know, to do that. I mean, the proprietor that we were talking with can financially back it, it's no problem, and has the expertise, has the menu, knows what to do, but he can't be here because he's got two other businesses, or two other restaurants he's running. So, there's that.
Did you have anything else, Councilman?
Well, I mean, I guess my point that goes along with that is there a point number-wise where you could justify, you know, a smaller spec buildings for those type of things?
Well, what you got really is you're talking a difference, I think, between retail and industrial.
Correct.
And we have nothing industrial wise. I'll take that back. We're going to have a small facility where QTC was, but it needs a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. It could be reskinned, which you really can't do efficiently. But it is a piece of property there, and we have the one, I call it the Colorado property for folks in Colorado. Again, it's small. Retail wise, there's two types of retail. You've got the proverbial mom and pop, which would be really your downtown area. Then you have what's referred to as businesses, the regional or national businesses and chains. You don't have anything that fits that. At some point, hopefully somebody will build something that will fit that category. But I will tell you that working with national and regional chains, they're becoming more and more and more picky about what they want. To give you an idea, I've worked with one company, it's not national, but it is a very large regional company, it's a sporting goods company. Their deal is they need about 8 to 10,000 feet. They have ceiling height requirements that they want. But here's what it is, they want to pay X amount of dollars a foot, and they want you to put in $100,000 worth of tenant improvements at your cost. And then they're not willing to sign a very long lease. So, you know, you look at that and you think, well, wait a minute, you know, $100,000 is takes a while to recoup that. And if you look at the length of the lease, and that length of the lease is very common in regional and national clients. It's pretty hard to get your money back, so you have a lot of people who shy away from it. You have a lot of banking institutions who won't do them because of that reason, and you know, understand that. But that's the nature of that game. So right now, I would say, and to go back to a point that Mark made, where Cameron Regional bought the Cameron Mutual, Cameron's in there. We had a prospect on that was going to level it and build. He's a spec builder. He would have built the retail in his type of building would have worked fine, but we weren't able to put that together because they weren't willing to pay that rate for the property. So, yeah, we don't. You know, again, if you're going to build a spec retail, it's going to have to be geared to national and regional clients. I will tell you this also, that the loss of population, even though we know that didn't reduce the real population that much, but as we also know, the folks out at Blue Roof Hotel don't get to get out and spend money. And those national clients read that even more than the local ones do.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, you have anything?
I do not.
Councilwoman?
Yeah, hey, I have a question, guys, and thank you for,
Oh, yeah.
speaking up.
I'm sorry, I forgot you were there.
What's that?
I'm sorry, Councilman, I forgot you were online.
Oh, sorry about that.
No,
You wanna
I'm
go
glad you
ahead
said
and I'll
so.
go after?
No, go ahead, please.
All right, I appreciate it. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Thanks for being accommodating on this. You know, on that Cameron Regional purchase of Cameron Mutual, I mean, I know they've got signs up there that say satellite offices and whatnot. Last I had heard, they were fairly vague at the time about what specifically was going to go in there. Has there been any more, I guess, reveal about what they are ultimately gonna do with that building, kind of in more detail?
I mean,
I haven't heard anything.
the items that I've heard, is that, you know, some of it they're using for COVID. Then they're also considering some senior services, that they're gonna use it for. And other than that, Councilman, I don't know what the rest of the thinking is.
Sure. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be able to sit down with you, on a quarterly basis and go over these items, you know. Like I say, unless we hear differently, one of the things that, pre-filings are getting ready to get started with the Missouri legislature. And if you remember the motel hotel, we got it through the House last year. The Senate bottled up, and it was because of COVID and because of some of the issues they had. I'm hoping that, we won't have those hurdles that we had last time. But we'll be working close with Representative Railsback, and he had gotten some support. Representative Neely, we were able to get it through the House when he was representative, but it just fell short. And once again, that was when COVID was starting, and it's a strange place down there. And
We actually got it through the entire chamber, entire House and Senate once.
yeah,
But it was tied, as they refer to it down there, to a Christmas tree bill. And it had items in it that should have been vetoed, and they should have been vetoed. But on those type of issues, you can't, what they refer to as line item veto. You can't on finance, the governor can line item the budget, but he can't line item general purpose legislation. And there were some things in there that would have been not very beneficial to us if they had passed. So even though we lost that opportunity, I think we gained by stopping what was being done to us. It would have had a tremendous impact on your TIF, it would have had a tremendous impact on your CID, or even the ability to offer it. So we lost it there.
but if we are successful, then it'll give us a mechanism, to help get heads in beds, you know, in the motels, by having festivals, having sporting events with your new parks that you're putting in, things like that. And you know, it'll help the restaurants, you know, and different people selling gas and that type of thing. So 50% of it, you know, we have to use for promotions. So that means billboards, you know, flyers, things like that, you know, to get the word out, you know, that XYZ Festival is in Cameron, Missouri. You know, we'd be able to assist, for instance, like the school with their March Fest. You know, that's what, their third year that they've had it. And, you know, from everything I hear, you know, it's a success again.
It was a big success.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a
Yeah.
wonderful day for our community. Just on that note, I just wanna say, I know a lot of people in here put in volunteer hours, and it takes a community to pull that kind of thing off, and we pull it off. And where I get to stand, I'm get to hear the kids from other districts, and they enjoy their day here.
Yeah. It's a neat thing, and I got a kick out of watching Carmen on Jimmy's, live video, you know, so I laughed when she was watching that and stepped out, and then Jimmy had to step a little further, you know, to get the better camera shot, but it's all good. But that's the type of thing that, you know, we're wanting to promote, you know, whether it's, ball tournaments, the amphitheater, if we're able to get that, you know, that will assist, you know, with what Billy has told me, some of the, performers that would be performing there aren't just, you know, local talent, it's major talent, that would bring people from Kansas City, Des Moines, and everywhere in between, you know, to wanna see that. So it would be a nice thing.
Well, with the comments that I got from the students and parents as I was taking them to places, they're going, there's really a lot of stuff going on. I go, yeah, there is. And if you did something like the parks and the amphitheater, up running, not even running, just knowing that city's going, they will wanna, hotel businesses and restaurants will wanna come here.
Sure.
They really will.
Yeah, and, you know, there's some neat things, people say, well, the amphitheater can only be used, you know, 4 or 5 months out of the year. You know, there's things, that the amphitheater could be used for as far as, in Christmas, you know, a city of lights where you can drive through and see Christmas lights and things like that. You know, it would be something neat to bring people to town, you know, be sort of an expansion of what we used to do at the old swimming pool, you know, that started out a few years ago.
Years and years ago,
Well,
we
yeah.
used to drive to North Cameron Heights.
Oh, yeah.
There was Reindeer Lane.
Yeah, Reindeer Lane,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was all the excitement.
Yeah, but, you know, that's the type of thing it can be, and I think, you know, as long as cooler heads prevail and people all work together, and, you know, push forward, and not denigrate one another, then, you know, we'll get that done.
I would agree, Cameron has never been poised to have so much progress, and I do appreciate, all of you and others that are volunteering a ton of time trying to bring better things to this community. A lot of professional expertise, so thank you for all that you and the chamber contribute, because our goals are aligned. When the business community succeeds, then that means the city is able to pay its bills, and hopefully we can get out-of-town people to pay even more and more.
Yep,
So,
yep.
anyway, is there anything else?
That's
before
it.
we go ahead and adjourn?
That's it.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll have a council meeting here in about 20 minutes. Meeting of the Cameron City Council at 6 p.m. Monday, October the 18th, 2021. If you'd all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk will now call the roll.
Dennison Clark.
Here.
Becky Curtis. Here. Julie Osmond. Here. Roy Estes.
Here.
John Ephraim.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public participation. If someone wishes to address the council, please come to the corner where the manager is sitting and sign your name. The very first item will be a Chamber of Commerce presentation for the Officer of the Year, Devon White, and then we will move into the public comments, and you'll be given 5 minutes to address the council.
Mayor, Council, tonight we'll be giving an award for Police Officer of the Year. I'd like to thank Mary Murdoch and everyone with the Chamber of Commerce. For every year, they always make contact with me and want to represent someone either in our police department, in the dispatch center, or one of our officers to give them this award. When they make contact with me, I send out an email to all of our employees at the police department, and then they send in nominations for who they believe should be the Officer of the Year. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have some of the banquets, so tonight we wanted to present that here with the chamber president also. So this year, Devon White is our recipient for Officer of the Year. Devon started his career with the Cameron Police Department in 2013. He graduated from the Missouri Western Police Academy and then started right off with our department. Devon, throughout the years that he's been with our department, has become an instructor within our department. So we have to have defensive tactics training every year and get qualified in that. And Devon has taken those roles on to be an instructor. Also, our department has tasers that we have to have and use in our duties. And Devon's also gone off to taser instructor classes, and then he certifies us every year with this. Devon's one of those officers that I can ask him to do something and I don't have to sit and worry about anything. I know that Devon's going to get those tasks done. Some of the stuff that I've got to see him evolve over the years was just this last year when we responded, Devon responded and his partner to domestic here in town at a duplex. And when he showed up, he automatically found out that the male subject had assaulted a female and then took an AR-15 loaded and barricaded himself upstairs in an attic area of the house. Devon's quick thinking and the calmness under the stressful call like this was able to get the family out and the little children out to safety. And it was his leadership that night, getting all the resources there to stop this 2-hour standoff. I think his starting out that call with that was able to have us come to the great results that we did, where no one was injured and someone was taken into custody. So this year, it's my honor to give Officer of the Year to Devon White.
There we go. And 3, 2, 1, and one more. 3, 2, 1. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief, I know I speak for all of us in our appreciation for everything you and your department do, and Officer White, thank you. We appreciate all your efforts.
Thanks very much.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to address the council?
I am BJ Reed, 702 West 3rd Street in Cameron. I'm a 28-year resident, and Mayor Clark and the City Council, City Manager Rasmussen, and fellow Cameronians. I asked if I could speak this evening on behalf of the Historical Preservation Society and the Old School of Cameron, where I serve as treasurer. As most of you know, our nonprofit is working very hard to save the 200 block of East 3rd Street. The city manager, staff, and council have been very supportive of these efforts, and we'd like to thank you for all you've done, including the construction of the barricade. The city built the barricade around the block as a public safety measure, and the Old School saw this as an opportunity. We intended to sell advertising on the walls of the barricade, allowing our supporters to display their business signs. After the first sign was posted, we learned after the fact that there's a city ordinance regarding signage downtown, and we were apparently in violation of that ordinance. We had no idea that there was an ordinance regarding signs, and once it was brought to our attention, I read it myself. The ordinance that applies in this case is one that mentions advertising on a city easement. And because the barricades themselves are sitting on the city sidewalk, apparently this ordinance applies. The business owner that posted his sign has removed it in good faith for now, hoping we can correct this mistake. And we have a list of many other businesses who wish to advertise on the wall. Our intention was that we could paint the barricade with a black weatherproof paint and allow the businesses to place their ads in the order that they contact us. We realize that some citizens look at this barricade as an eyesore, but it is indeed a necessary eyesore that is the beginning of growing pains that we must endure before something great happens. We also realize that the barricades were paid for with city tax dollars, but allowing us to paint the barricades and place the signs would serve as beautification and a weather protectant. Because the barricades must stay up as a matter of public safety, why not allow this non-for-profit attempting to save the buildings an opportunity to make money that can be earmarked directly to the preservation of these much-loved buildings? We have an opportunity to make approximately $40,000 in advertising dollars over a 5-year period. I'd like to apologize for my oversight and ignorance of the fact that the sign ordinance existed, but on second thought, this is a huge opportunity, not just for us, but for the city and its local businesses. For the first time in a year and a half since the talk of saving the building started, local business people are banding together in solidarity for something bigger than themselves, for a cause they're getting excited about. I don't want to lose that momentum. The city has a huge opportunity not only to help us, but to help future owners of historic buildings who may need to construct a barricade someday. By adding an ordinance that applies to barricades, the city has a great chance to show the whole town that changes can be made to help organizations to work within the law to make things better. The business owner who initially hung the sign has removed it until we have an opportunity to go through the proper channels. I would like to request that the City Council consider supporting an ordinance that would allow advertising signage to be posted on barricades that involve historic building preservation. We are willing to make our own packet for our partners that explains to them that the city nor HPS would be responsible for any vandalism or damage that incurs to the signs while they're posted. And we're willing to cooperate with any reasonable boundaries that the city already has in place regarding the size of the signage, etc. I'd like to thank each of you for your time and respectfully ask for your support on this issue. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We can't really engage in a conversation back and forth because of sunshine law, but I do believe the manager is going to include some comments in his manager's report.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support, and I just wanted to have a chance to introduce you all to the idea and ask for support on it.
And we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that wishes to address the council? Okay, seeing none, that will conclude our first public participation. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any requests to move items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will now read the items on the consent agenda.
Item A, motion to approve the minutes of the October 4th, 2021 regular session.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 to
Abstain. I wasn't here for it.
Okay. Motion carries 3 in favor, 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is the manager's report. Manager Adams.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The first thing I had was John Ingram asked me to tell you all that he was sorry he could not be here. He did want me to say that he did come down with COVID, even though he was vaccinated, so he was one of those small percentage that got it in spite of that, and he wanted to make sure that he remained isolated for the required period of time because he did not want anyone else to get contaminated by that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the International City Managers Association conference was in Portland. And that was why Paul Beckwith and I were not here for the last council meeting, but we were there for the 107th annual conference of the International City Managers Association. And I tell you, it was a great conference. I think Paul can talk about this. And I guess if anybody can put on a good conference, it ought to be all the city managers in the world. And Paul and I were there for the whole thing, and at the opening session on October 5th, we accepted on behalf of the city the International First Place Community Sustainability Award for cities under 10,000. And that was for our dilapidated canoe. And I'm going to call Paul to come up here and talk a little bit about it. And if you can see there was a picture of one of our old buildings that we're doing. They used that as part of the display that was there in the front of the Portland Convention Center. And in the upper right-hand corner you see there, I took a picture of the huge ballroom where they were doing this. There were 1,500 attendees there. And then down in the bottom picture, there were Paul and I up on the stage accepting the award. And on the left there, the gentleman clapping is the president of the International City Managers Association. Give me that next picture there. And here, Paul and I in front of the 2001 ICANN banner. And then in the small picture, you can see a picture of a description of the dilapidated to new. And there in the lobby of the conference center, they had each of the winners in the different categories. And not only were we able to get that award, but we also attended a number of the different sessions with lots of good information for the city. And I'm going to ask Paul to mention a couple sessions he went with, things that he would bring back to us.
It was a very good, informative, very well put together convention, training session. Very honored and humbled to be able to participate and be a award winner recipient there for the city of Cameron. So thanks for everyone's support to get us there and making this happen. It's a dream come true for our city. A lot of things as far as the learning aspect of it. One of the classes I sat in on was a small town in Idaho, looking at how to retain their workers within the city limits. Most of their workers commuted in excess of 30 minutes to their jobs within the city. So they had developed several incentive programs with local contractors to build homes in the city that would retain at a reduced rate with working a city partnership with the businesses and the workers there to keep them in town instead of traveling 30 minutes one way to get to work. Then another one that I was able to set in on was road reclamation, something to be right down Mr. Bontrager's alley there on how to reclaim our streets in town. It was quite a interesting process. Actually, it was a county government that had put this together, and they are reclaiming about a mile of road a day when they have everything set up and going. And now the state of Michigan has reached out to them about helping them on some projects. So they actually went in and purchased machinery and have a crew that are reclaiming streets that are exceeding the standards by some great extent. So lots of good conferences. Those were just two that highlighted and the information we've been able to bring back. They covered everything from parks to personal training as far as making yourself a better individual, libraries, all kinds of classes. I know Steve said in on so.
Yeah, a couple that I found was very interesting. One was a great presentation on people moving from the suburbs back to the downtowns. And you know, in the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, people wanted to move out into the suburbs, and having your own house there was kind of the American dream. And now with the new millennials, the tendency is to move back, and they were doing a projection of what happens is that people are now tending to not move into the suburbs, but the trend now is to move into the downtowns. I'm not sure how that fits in with our downtown, but it was an interesting thing about how moving downtown was becoming an important thing. Another thing that I noticed, there was a lot of sessions on equity. That's something that's in the news now. And one of the things that I saw was how there is inequity sometimes, and you don't know it. You don't see it, it's unknown, it's unintentional, and there's ways that you can watch out for that. And so we took some of those to heart, and we will watch to make sure that we're not unintentionally prejudicing of people that we don't even know about. And this is Americans of color, sexual problems, or immigrants, but all of these different people are affected by that, and sometimes you don't even know it. So there was some good information on that. Paul and I will take the brochures that we got, we'll pass that back out to the staff, and the staff can look at those, and any of those that might interest them that we may not have been able to attend, we will get that back out to the staff, and the International City Managers Association can get those to us in a minute, and we can get all those presentations back to us if we want to look at those. Now, one thing about anything else, Paul?
I'd like to say it was a very good conference. We had 4 keynote speakers, all of them were women, and it was very, very interesting. I mean, from police chief of Seattle to CEOs to best-selling book authors, so very good information for those individuals.
The last item that on behalf of the staff and our trip there, we would like to present the award, the trophy, to the mayor, but we don't have it, and we're asking about that, and what happens is either they're offshore in ships or COVID caused them, but they said that they didn't have them, they'd have to mail them to us, so we're gonna have another opportunity to come by and present these to you again. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions on the ICMA for us? Did you have another slide for us there, Drew? No. Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much. And I want to go ahead with the city manager's report because I did want to mention a couple of other things. The next item on it is the No Tax Increase Street Improvement Initiative. Here you see a picture of the presentation that went out, and all of the council members, I had a chance to look at that. We worked very hard for a week or so to get those things out. And we wanted to emphasize that this is a no tax increase improvement initiative. This is just a continuation of the tax that exists now. We'll put that out on our Facebook page, and we'll place it, a copy of it in the monthly utility bills, and we'll display it in local businesses, and we're going to run it in the newspaper a couple of times. Now, that's about all. We're going to kind of keep that at about that level, and most of the council feels that that is about the level that we should be putting it out. And what we're doing is we're putting out information so when people go to the polls to vote, they'll know what it's about. And we've listed some of the streets that need to be worked and some of the work that has been in the past few years. But I have a copy of that for each of you on your desks, and there are some copies of it here for the public. And this session now will essentially constitute our first rollout of that, and the election is on November 2nd. But the next thing I wanted to announce was that the Great Northwest Wholesale Water Commission meeting, which we normally would have had this last week, is rescheduled for this Wednesday. This Wednesday here in this room at 2 p.m. and representatives of USDA plan to attend. Okay, and I don't have anything more to say. That's all they allowed me to say. So on that was the subject on that.
Would you comment on the barricade?
Pardon me? Yes, I am. That was all I wanted to say about Genway. I couldn't say any more because I talked to them and they just let us know they'd be here. And I did want to talk then about the barricades because we've gone through this in the last week, and planning and zoning looked at that. But the city attorney and I are now looking and researching how we can do that. We may be able to do it with an ordinance, or it may be that we can bring back a resolution to you next time to see some ways where we can try to accommodate that while still keeping in compliance with the zoning ordinances. So we're working on that. I'll bring some draft of that back to all of you sometime the next week or two so you can see kind of what it looks like, and then I hope we can bring it back at the next council meeting with something for you. And then the last thing I want to do is I wanted to thank everybody for their participation in March Fest this last weekend. It was a great function. The people that put it on did a tremendous job of organizing it and getting everything put together. And I wanted to thank the police department and the fire department particularly for the great support they provided. So thank you very much. And that concludes my report unless you have any questions.
Questions or comments? Yes, Councilman.
He actually went to everything. He was out down, he watched the parades, and then he comes over to the high school where we were, so I got him in to see a color guard, and then he went on to the football, so he saw everything, and I appreciate your help with all that.
Well, thank you, and I'll do one other thing. This comes from my time in the Army. I also went down twice and looked at the bathrooms to make sure that they were clean.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the manager? Okay. Seeing none, that will conclude the manager's report. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We are postponing Bill 2020-34. We have a second and final reading on Bill 2021-35.
Bill 2021-35, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cameron, Missouri to enter into a power purchase agreement with Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
Thank you. Chair, I entertain a motion to pass Bill 2021-35 on a second and final reading by roll call.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Julie Osmond.
Yes.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
John Ingram. Dennis M. Clark.
Yes. Bill 2021-35 passes, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. That will conclude unfinished business. Next item on the agenda is new business. We have, first item is Resolution 2021-41.
Resolution 2021-41, a resolution for the city of Cameron, Missouri to rescind resolution 2018-44 and replace it with updated guidelines for the dilapidated to new demolition program.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass Resolution 2021-41.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Thank you. I wanted to give a little explanation on this because here we have a resolution to rescind the order and put a new one in after we just got the international first place award for the program that we've got. I'd asked that we delayed doing this ordinance until after we came back from Seattle. But the reason we are doing this is because there are some people that have wanted to do some other things in the area that we have torn down buildings. And so they've asked, where does it say you have to put a single family dwelling there? We searched all of our ordinances, we searched all the resolutions, we searched the history, and we never could find a place that it says that. So if we want to do something different, and council certainly could amend this to change it a little bit, but we wanted to have what is the it we're changing. And so we put that in this new resolution, and it's actually section 3, and that's the only change to it. And what it says is, upon completion of demolition of structures for the 100% program, the council will, by ordinance, execute a quitclaim deed to the new owner of the property, which includes a stipulation that a new single-family dwelling be constructed on said property within 2 years of closing. That's what should have been in there, and I don't know why it wasn't, but this puts it in there now, and then we have it in there, and then the council can move to that to alter it or change it if we would like to change or improve it, but now we have an it that's there that we can work on. And so that's why I would ask the council to put that in, and then when people ask me where it is, I can say that's where it is.
I just wanted to add too that it was in there for the 50-50 program, it just wasn't delineated for the 100% program, and we had that on.
And I would like to thank Shelley really for helping with that. I was sitting down there, and Rebecca and I, we must have gone through it 15 times and couldn't get it exactly right. And finally, Shelley helped us with us to word that, and then we got the wording in right. Shelley, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Questions or comments?
So what you're saying is that previously the program said there would be single family houses?
It said that for the 50-50 program, but the 50-50 program, those properties don't change hands. Those don't become part of the cities. When we added the 100% program, it was understood that that's what would happen, and that's what happens when we do a quitclaim deed to the new owner. But that's why we have it added here, because the form that we have attached is for the property owner that we receive the property from, not the one that it goes to.
Okay, so to recap, is that the city tears it down, and they get a quitclaim deed from the owner.
We get a quitclaim deed before we tear it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we use our city money to tear it down, and then we sell it to recoup what we tore down.
For the 100%
For
program.
the 100% program. So that's what there was not one for the 100%. And I also want to say that I really, if it wasn't for our citizens and our community, we need you guys to stay engaged, challenge us, to question, because if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be doing this right now. And Steve is very transparent on the fact that, we were doing it and there wasn't an it. So I appreciate, I'm the type of person that, I appreciate the fact that we're getting an it, we're planning on an it. And I'm always on that kind of stuff, because if you can't stand on something solid, like an ordinance or statute, then you're standing on sand. And then you're picking and choosing who will build in your community, and I don't like that. So I'm glad that we're doing this. But with that said, I also know that there are some things that need to be worked out a little more wordsmithing on the resolution. Nothing against Patrick, but I do think that it needs to be kicked around a little bit. And so I actually make a motion to postpone this until it can get back here with some of the different, adding in a little more information has come to light that we would like to look at how it would fit into this resolution. So that is my motion.
Second.
Okay. So, if I understood you right, we have a first and second, postpone it, and that'll be definitely until the language is worked.
Well, I'm with Steve, I wanna have it, but I also don't wanna push, I mean, the staff has been working on this, and I do think I've already talked to, our planning and zoning, they're aware of it, so, and there's nothing wrong with planning and zoning, but, I just would like for there to be a little tweaking, and, I believe it's better getting it, that we don't have to go back and tweak it. I'm okay with, if whatever Steve can do, whatever he can do, I'm not gonna I don't wanna rush him, and, so.
Are we sending this back to committee?
Nope.
We're just taking a little bit longer to get more information, clarify.
So I have a motion and a second to postpone and amend the resolution.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion will be postponed. Okay, next item on the agenda, Resolution 2021-42.
Resolution 2021-42, a resolution of the City of Cameron authorizing the mayor of the City of Cameron, Missouri to accept property located on 8th Street as public right-of-way.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion to pass Resolution 2021-42.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Director?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. This resolution 42 and also the next one 43 are both line kind of go hand in hand. Godfrey Street project is from 4th Street to 8th Street. The stormwater though runs west down 8th Street towards Grove Street. So, section of permanent right of way is along 8th Street. You can see in the exhibit, it's the area that's kind of highlighted in the blue. Although it's not much area, about 8 feet, it is still needed in order to get the public infrastructure in place. So that's what the permanent right of way is for 723 North Godfrey. And really appreciate Jonathan Byron and Jared Hamilton working with on this piece of permanent right of way.
I've been by there, it looks like it's been being renovated. Is that something they just recently purchased?
It is yes, within the last couple months, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like it. And I'm just curious, So the reason it didn't get done last time was because because you're gonna put in a sidewalk going down 8th Street, which is fantastic.
Yes, that's the next resolution. We've been working with Bartlett West in regards to the city council. I think you guys first approved the agreement with them last October for Godfrey Street. At the time we were working with the then current property owner, we were unable to, so what we did was we were trying to turn and run the stormwater split in half. Run half of it down on 6th Street, because again, Godfrey's a 4-block section, so it take the first half, the first 2 blocks and run east down 6th Street, and the rest try to run the pipes that fit into the existing right of way, run down 8th Street. There was just too much water, and it'd be too large pipes to take it, too costly all the way down 6th Street, but we do have a design completed for Godfrey Street for 6th Street. So this next resolution is an amendment then to go ahead and finish the design of the infrastructure all the way down 8th Street from Godfrey to Grove Street where it's currently done today.
And my question, So that is to be done in the near future?
It is, it was one of the projects we were hoping to get done with the, transportation list, this season, but again, working with property owners does sometimes take time, which we understand, appreciate. It's something that we'd like to look at, we won't be able to get it done, we're too late in the season right now to get this, project completely designed. We have always had public meetings with all property owners, meetings with property owners as well as public meetings to get all those done, take their input, get it designed and bid for next construction season. So this would be a 2023. But it would still be good right now. We have all the survey, work with property owners to go ahead and finish the design. And it would still be reaching out individually to individual property owners along the route. So we're still recommending you go ahead and complete the design. Hopes that it would be a 2023 construction project.
Any objections with the property owners to this?
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution 2021-42, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, next item on the agenda is resolution 2021-43.
Resolution 2021-43, a resolution authorizing the city manager of the city of Cameron, Missouri to enter into a professional services agreement with Bartlett and West, Inc. for design of the Godfrey Street project.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass resolution 2021-43.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion? Any other?
I was thinking, okay, so if we're, so if we're doing an engineering plan, how long do those last?
It should be good for a couple of years. Thought about that too. I wouldn't say you want to go any more than a handful of years as you start changing properties, but for the most part, a plan like that is going to be.
So there would be no, because when you said 2023, that's not this current, yeah, it's yeah, I just want to make sure that when we're gonna pay them for this, that we're gonna be able to use it.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, 23 would be, again, not putting it on a shelf if we were to keep moving forward. By the time we finish the design, it gives us a chance to meet with property owners, take their concerns back, incorporate those with the design, do a public hearing, get the final bid docs. I mean, we're probably honestly looking at midsummer next season anyway before we would be ready to put this out to bid. Ideal time to put a construction project out is gonna be November, December, so, we're not too far off schedule.
Two things I'd like to add to that. One is that we won't be able to get it completed with the current street improvement sales tax. So what will happen is we'll have to bring that back to you, and the completion of it will be with the sales taxes continued. So we're halfway there, but we need to get the design done now, and that's why it may take a little while until we get to that point. The second thing is, when we bring the plan back to you, we will make sure that we come to you and go over it in detail, and so that you can approve the amount of plan that we're going to do. And by that I mean, for example, in this road, we want to have streets and gutters and curbs and trees and whatever we're going to have in it, and you may want to improve that, but it may be that you don't want to do all of that. Some streets may be such that you don't want to put sidewalks in, and we can stretch the money out further. So when we bring these back, we'll bring them back to you so you can take a look at each one and see how you want to wisely spend that money.
I like that, thank you.
So wouldn't it behoove us to not, devil's advocate, vote on this till after November 2nd?
No, I think we need to go ahead and get the plan done, because then we'll have it, because we're gonna do it sometime, one way or the other. We need to get the plans done now while it's ready to go.
Questions, comments?
Okay, so I do have a question in reference to what Roy asked. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here. Why are we gonna pay for a plan? To have a plan design for a street that won't be done with this round of, this 10-year round of transportation money. What if it doesn't pass, then we've paid for a plan, and,
Go ahead, Drew.
and then we can't use it.
Great question, I should have brought that up earlier. There is still money in this round of transportation funding, so we could scale back on the project, we could look at additional funding from grants, maybe we could have some city crews do some in-kind work. But right now, if we scrap it and then try to come back and pick it up in 2 years, we'll have to pay more money to come back out and do a full solar survey, so that's why we recommend it makes sense to go ahead and we're so close to finalizing the plan. We spent last year designing it, that now that we've got this additional, right away on 8th Street to just finish the plan and move forward.
Right, if we were gonna have to maybe use our own general funds, we wouldn't be able to do it, so that's,
Oh, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
why, we wanna make sure
Yeah.
that this is on track to actually get done.
There is still some money, so we will.
I'm just curious, why 3 weeks to know whether you're gonna have funding or not?
So we did have fun.
But we just said we weren't gonna have it without the new transportation tax, right?
Well, yes, we would like to get started, because it does take a while for design. There is money still in the transportation fund. It's not enough to complete this project as currently designed. So if there is no additional funding from the transportation sales tax, we would still have the design done, which would be good for a couple of years yet. So it would give us an opportunity then to look at, exactly what our costs are for additional funding. Again, maybe for in-kind services, scaling the project back, or grant monies, or something else along those lines.
So you believe whether that passed or not, you will be able to do that?
Some
At least
aspect of
part of it.
yes, because there's still money in the transportation fund today.
That helps.
But if there wasn't a transportation fund, yes, the general fund wouldn't even come close to handling a $1 million project.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution 2021-43, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, next item on the agenda is our second public participation. If there's anybody wishing to address the council, please come forward to the table where the manager is, sign in your name and your address, and you'll be given 5 minutes to address the council. Okay, seeing none, that will conclude our second public participation. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous comments from the staff. We'll start with the clerk. Director.
I just, for real quick, the Parks Director, what I do mention, we do put it out that, the Park Board went through and they are currently looking at, the new community park sponsorship opportunities. There is the field name sponsors, instead of doing the traditional numbers, we'll do, some business for the name of the field. We already have our first one is, Farmer State Bank, who's gonna sponsor a field. There's still 2 baseball fields left on the scoreboards. We also are looking at, anybody who is interested in like a shelter house. And of course, any amount helps, but then we're looking at the plaque on the concession stands. So there was, different levels of sponsorship for that. And the future advertising, the bids, we hope to have the park open soon, so next year, we can have, the baseball banners out in the field, on the outfield fence. So just, want to make sure the council's aware of that, and, get it up to you guys too, but, appreciate everything the park board has done, and they put a lot of time and effort into this. Bids do open, are opening this Wednesday, for the community park, so we'll be, reviewing those. There's a lot of steps before we can bring it back to council, but we'll be bringing it back to council here in the near future. Very excited, that's, we're gonna get going. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Becker, anything?
No, sir.
Manager?
Nothing for the mayor.
Chief? Chief?
No, sir.
Director?
Mr. Mayor. Last week, I was able to attend the Loggers Annual Conference as a employee delegate. It was very beneficial, learning experience. I appreciate the opportunity to go. Our retirement system that the city of Cameron offers is a defined benefit program, and our state of Missouri loggers program is approximately 97% funded, and they are one of the top 5 programs in the country. So thank you for your investment on behalf of the employees, and it was a benefit. We're very nice to go down and learn more and see other communities that participate. Thank you.
Thank you for attending. Council?
Nothing.
Okay. That will conclude comments from the staff. Next item on the agenda, miscellaneous comments from the council. Councilwoman?
A lot of people in town this weekend. Good for us.
Councilwoman?
Yeah, I also want to say thank you, Chief, for such good, officers that you keep and hire and train, and you do a good job, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
My daughter worked in a retail business this weekend. With all the people in town, they did 3 times, which they normally do good on Saturdays. They did 3 times what they normally do on Saturday. So,
Everybody wins.
great job, Marcia.
Wasn't there was supposed to be 29 schools, but I know we didn't end up with that, but it was
There's 28 schools.
28 schools. And a lot of family members came too, so we had a lot of, some elderly come, and we made sure that they were well taken care of.
Yeah, I too want to express my appreciation to the chief and the police department, and again, I know I speak for all of us, what a tremendous job you all do for the community, and it is appreciated. Also, our household is very involved with March Fest, and we want to thank everybody for their participation, all the hard work. I felt like it really put Cameron out there in a very positive light. It was great to see, and so thank you all again for so much hard work. I believe our executive session has been canceled, so the next item on the agenda is I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.